Sure. That's a very good question. In this situation, I believe and this is very, very good question. Richard was in the dark. Now, here's the thing. From May of 2001, I delivered a very harsh message to the Iraqis. Approximately every week that Richard and I meet after May, by June definitely, we're talking about this attack every week. Every time I go see him, or practically every time I go see him, we're discussing it over and over and over again. Richard was very agitated about it. By June, we had identified that this would be Richard told me, this would be a terrorist attack involving airplane hijackings and a strike on the World Trade Center. This was not an ambiguous target. This was very definite.
It could have been anywhere. We were lying. We did have some intelligence they were going to use planes as bombs, but we didn't know where they were going to strike, which is completely blown out of the water by your testimony, Susan.
Yeah, absolutely. We knew by June, but by April and May, we were looking for airplane hijackings. By June, we expected airplane hijackings and a strike on the World Trade Center specifically. Now, my CIA
would be on September 11th. Did we know it would be in September? That doesn't give them an excuse not to begin to look.
Well, no, hold on. Sorry, but in June. Richard was frantic. He kept saying to me, as if I was a child, he'd say, look, Susan, when you go talk to your Iraqi diplomatic contacts, I want you to tell them that we're looking for any fragment of intelligence. Except he was really agitated about it. He was not calm and patient about this. He was like, we want any fragment of intelligence. I want you are anti-war. You don't want us to go to war with Iraq, so you better tell Iraq that at the highest levels of the government, he said, this is way, he says to me, Susan, this is way above me. At the very highest levels of the government, it has been decided, and this is by May of 2001 and June of 2001, it has been decided that if there is this attack involving airplane hijackings and a strike on the World Trade Center, then the U.S. will declare war. There will be a major military operation against Iraq. It will be worse than anything they've ever seen. They cannot fathom what we're going to do, but we have already decided that that's going to be the response. Now, this is before 9/11. This is like months before 9/11. By August, I can tell you the date. It was August 2nd, the date of FBI Director Robert Mueller's nomination hearings in the Senate. Richard Fuse and I were talking on the telephone, and I was complaining to Richard about how I thought Robert Mueller was throwing terrorism investigations and that he was playing games with terrorism to make politicians in Washington look good. And Richard said, "Yeah, I know that I know about Lockerbie. Well, what's the other case?" And I said, "Well, I think the Oklahoma City bombing, because he says that Timothy McVeigh and Terry Nichols acted alone without any help." No. And that's just ridiculous. I mean, there's a whole bunch of evidence to show that that's not true.
Well,
and I said,
because I know a little bit about this as well. George Bush had created something after the first Iraq War called Operation Iraqi Paperclip, where he, kind of like the Nazi paper clips, where he brought in some of the controlled assets to work on things like this. And this also gave them a second excuse, another way to keep Iraq and Saddam Hussein on the ropes, because they can always bring out that footage that we never got to see of John Doe number 2, who was, to many people's information, Al Husseini, who was also, according to our information, working at Logan Airport on the day of 9/11.
Yeah, there you go. Yes, very good. But there's even more to it than that, because, well, after 9/11, we'll come back to after 9/11 later on, because there's some groundbreaking stuff that happens after 9/11 that relates to this, what you just said. But before 9/11, on August 2nd, Richard says to me, oh, Sue, okay, he and I are talking. I'm telling him that Robert Mueller is the Arlen Specter of anti-terrorism, and the single bullet theory that killed Kennedy. And I said, this is just he just simplifies things to the point where it doesn't even make sense anymore. And I tell Richard that I'm going back up to New York to talk to my Iraqi contacts, and Richard says to me, "Oh my God, that's terrible. No, no, no. Do not go to New York. Oh God, do not do that." And I'm like, "Whoa, wait, Richard. I've been talking to the Iraqis all summer long. I need to get feedback from the Iraqis to see if they've heard anything from Baghdad. I need to know, if they've got answers on the intelligence requests we've made." And he said, "Oh no, Susan, it's too dangerous. Don't go to New York." And I said, "Richard, do you think the attack is imminent?" He said, "Yes." He said, "Absolutely." He said, "We're expecting mass casualties, and we're looking at this as a serious. This is not going to be a localized attack. This could have major repercussions throughout the city, and I don't want you going into New York at all until after the attack is over."
Well, it'd been nice if they told the people of New York there who died, but I guess they couldn't get to all that.
I'm sorry?
Well, it would have been nice if they would have warned the people in Oklahoma City, the children there, and the people that died in New York at the World Trade Center towers, or the people in the Pentagon, that this was all coming. Because they warned you. I heard other people were warned as well. We heard Larry Silverstein was warned, Giuliani, some other people. But they didn't warn, they warned the mayor of San Francisco, Willie Brown, okay? They just didn't warn the children and the people in there. Because this was, you just have to think this was the plan all along. And I think the excuse that this is eventually going to come out, and the excuse is going to be, well, we wanted to catch these guys. We were running a sting operation, so it just got out of hand. This is the way 1993 World Trade Center bombing went down, as I'm sure you know.
Yes. Oh yes. But you see. So on August 2nd, I tell him that I will go up to New York, and I can tell you the date. I said I'll go up to New York Saturday, the day after tomorrow, which is August 4th, and I will come to your office on August 6th. Now, what I understand is that on August 6th, and I did. I went to Richard's office, and he said, "So, did they know anything? Do they have anything?" And of course, Iraq kept telling us over and over and over again that they had no intelligence regarding this conspiracy. They didn't know anything about it. They had been listening for it, and if they had heard anything, they would pass it back to us. But at that point, Iraq was trying to get the weapons inspectors back into Baghdad, and they had been developing a comprehensive peace framework for ending the sanctions.
This is very important because, again, it shows like in Afghanistan, they offered to give up bin Laden. It was refused. We've got to, this is really important. I want to stress this, but I do have to go to break here in just a few
seconds. Sorry.
So let's pick up there when we come back. We'll move through 9/11. We'll talk more about Iraq and how they really did want to try to work with us, and then